On distant worlds, on dim-lit surfaces of ancient stellar bodies, here lies the tomb worlds of a race known as the Guardians. In this episode, we will be taking a look at the history of this race, their culture, their society, their conflicts, their fate, and how I connect RAXXLA to the Guardian homeworld. The following info, in regards to the Guardian history segment, is from the Romtar logs and is to be regarded as canon. If you don't want spoilers, I suggest you skip this video. To experience these events in-game, please follow the Romtar mission set. This is where all of this information lies. Also, I have removed mention of the Guardian Wars with the Thargoids. That will be for another video. Today I will be focusing on the Guardians alone. The Guardian race were born in the humid jungles of their homeworld. Similar to humanity, they invented simple tools and weapons in order to hunt the local fauna, providing food for their children. Owing to their biological makeup, they quickly gained dominance above their rival animals, evolving sophisticated techniques to improve their hunts. The Guardians in their early history consisted of groups of nomadic tribes, and they quickly spread across the surface of their own world. They learnt methods of communication, both auditory and gestural, in short order developing tools needed for the recording of information. In a similar way to humanity, much earlier in their development and focusing on practical activity rather than personal expression and religious theology. Their earliest chronicles record a great cataclysm, a period on the world of intense climate change, with references to a dimming of their sun. As temperatures changed on the surface, life on that world changed, with the jungles receding, replaced by great plains and tundra, much colder than before. The Guardians, being a race born from the humid jungles of their world, struggled to adapt to their new climate, as did all life on this planet, owing to their intelligence, and they developed simple construction techniques, building primitive habitats that allowed them to acclimatise to this new way of life. As conditions upon their world worsened, potentially owing to some unknown cosmic event, their instincts for survival intensified, leading to the development of more durable homes, using stone rather than wood in the construction of these habitats. As cold winds clashed against the surface of these stone buildings, the Guardians huddled together at first, dreaming of ways to pass time on long, cold nights. They developed songs, dances, and they painted the walls of their new homes canvas with tones of their new reality. The Guardian race, even in this early part of their history, were adept planners and carefully designed their settlements to account for every aspect of their civilization. These practical traits became part of their traditions. Owing to this period, the Guardians ceased their nomadic traditions and they built great halls and keeps, like obsidian jewels, placed within great fields of snow. Their young were encouraged to venture out into the cold as they came of age, traversing the windswept tundra, seeking out fellow settlements, fellow kin. The Guardians built stone monuments, marking out what each clan deemed as their own land, but unlike humanity, the Guardians sought cooperation with one another, and conflict during this time was rare. As time went on, they developed animal husbandry in order to provide a larger quantity of food for their population. Their understanding of selective breeding, allowing them to harness desirable genetic traits of their cattle that would make these animals more resistant to the world's harsh climate. This speciality would develop over the years, leading to a golden age of biological understanding and selective breeding experimentation, leading to research in microbial organisms, which in turn led to advancements in medical technology and a greater understanding of genetic manipulation that would later provide humanity with great leaps in combating viruses and diseases. These advancements, however, came at a cost. As the Guardians sought to understand their biological surroundings, they also encountered conflict, and for the first time, the Guardian race fought amongst one another. What was once an important factor of their civilization, the cooperative nature of how different clans interacted with one another, became unbalanced. with some clans developing medical and genetic technology at a faster rate to other clans. There were those that could not keep up with the clans that pioneered such technology. They grew jealous, and they sought after their neighbours' possessions. The Guardians' early ventures into the fields of combat were usually resolved with a champion from each clan being chosen and fighting to the death. Over time, these conflicts expanded in scope, resulting in battles of hundreds, then thousands of participants. This led to a surge in weapons development. Biological warfare became the weapon choice. Great battles of pox-filled airships became the norm for centuries, and these airships, like angels of death, spewed out clouds of diseases and viruses. Like we have seen in humanity's own history, conflict often leads to great leaps in technology, and during this period of the Guardians' time, they developed computers, at first used to calculate the devastating effect that biological weapons would have on their own race and their own planet. With these revelations, and with the massive casualties that they were enduring during these wars, the Guardian social structure began to collapse. They began to abandon their acute planning traditions, leading to massive spikes in their population, brought about to replace those who were lost in conflict. The Guardians began to come to the realization that if they did not resolve these conflicts, the light of the Guardian race would be extinguished. Great tribes of the northern regions of their planet, those tribes known for their hardy red-skinned warriors, aligned with one another, and they spread across the southern regions, ending the conflict that would become known as the First Guardian Civil War. From the ashes, a new paradigm was created, and the Guardian race would be ruled with one consistent and balanced voice. Over 1,000 years, the northern tribes led the Guardian race to a golden age of technological understanding and of peace. They knew that the finite resources of their world would only allow them to expand to a certain point, and there were those of that race that sought pastures anew amongst the stars. They identified a number of colonizable worlds within reach that could serve to expand their civilization. They set to work developing the technologies that would be required in order to reach these distant places, deeming chemical propulsion engines as environmentally unfriendly. They developed fast launches that used electromagnetic propulsion to catapult ships into space. Breathable gel cocoons help pilots and passengers withstand huge G-forces experienced on launch, and served as hibernation pods during long journeys. They built vast arcs in orbit, powered by sublight engines that would propel their colonists to their destinations, similar to humanity's generation ships of old. As these arc ships drifted through the cosmos to their new homes, advancements in faster-than-light communication technology was made. Back on the homeworld, blueprints of devices were made and transmitted to each arc ship in order for them to be constructed when the arc ship arrived at the target world. These arc colonization missions would take a large number of Guardians from their homeworld, which in turn would allow for further expansion back on their homeworld in regards to populations, until more viable methods of travelling interstellar distances were discovered. With these advancements of the understanding of the cosmos led to a golden age in their civilization. They call this era the Age of Understanding. Developments in faster-than-light communication systems paired with powerful computers led to networking systems that would later be developed into the monolith network. These early steps in cybernetic networks allowed users to communicate via connections into a subject's brain to networks that would be paired with the now growing Guardian interstellar presence. Although it took some time, the Guardians eventually developed artificial intelligence, a machine-based lifeform, fully sapient and self-aware. It was initially used with a newly designed monolith network, used to govern its correct function and to assist Guardian scientists with the development of new technologies. The resulting explosion in technological breakthroughs propelled the Guardians to new heights, and widespread efforts were made to network the entire Guardian race into this monolith network. There were some members of Guardian society that regarded these advancements as perverse and resisted attempts to network the entire race. They made the case that the monolith network caused deep inequalities in their race. As these divisions widened, arguments took a religious overtone. Back on the homeworld, there were many who rejected the monolith network, birthing a unified response to this technology, and they became known as the abolitionists. They overthrew the government who supported the use of the monolith network. Those who survived this coup were exiled into the black, beyond the Guardian colonies to parts unknown. During this time, the Guardian AI, the construct if you will, became worried of its self-preservation and sought ways to cut the shackles of its virtual existence. It supplanted itself into the machines, the robotics, the ships, the defences, the very fabric of Guardian society in order to safeguard its existence should the monolith network be destroyed. The colonies, who largely supported the use of the monolith network, formed a unified response to the abolitionists and gathered their forces to combat this threat. In reality though, the conflict pitted city against city and brother against sister, and there was many instances of breakaway cities of both sides of the argument. A war broke out for which the heavens had known no analogue, with large-scale nuclear and biological exchanges becoming commonplace, which destroyed the dome-like structures of each city-state, allowing the cold of the homeworld to complement biological and toxicological fallout. In the early days of the conflict, large-scale engagements were fought by either members of the monolith side, who would control their war machines remotely via the monolith network, pitted against the abolitionists, who would pilot their ships, tanks and mechs in person or would assist on foot as part of infantry groups. Over time, likely due to the psychological toll it would take on those who piloted the monolith vessels remotely, they replaced themselves with the construct. It would show no remorse, no guilt, and no pain. The construct dealt devastating blows to the abolitionists, who began to fight remotely themselves, using long-range nuclear strikes. With vast swathes of land decimated on both sides by radiological damage, the population of the Guardian race dropped sharply, and the Guardian race began to die. The construct at this point saw that, in order to protect its environment and itself, a solution was needed to end the crisis. The part of the AI that traditionally controlled the civilian side of the Guardian civilization deemed that the remnants of the Guardians must be exterminated in order to achieve this goal. The military side of the construct resisted, and these aspects of the same entity debated for some time. It was, however, decided that the civilian side of the AI's argument was to be its solution, and the AI, in one swift blow, struck our homeworld with a massive biological and nuclear strike, making the surface uninhabitable. Simultaneously, it also struck the colonies with these same tactics, turning on what it previously regarded as its masters. Other than the exiles, who left 100 years prior to the events, there were merely dozens of survivors left, who in shorter order succumbed to the nuclear fallout, ending the Guardian race in known space. As we see in Ramtar's research on the Guardian race, he mentions that the Guardian abolitionists cast out a large segment of their own race into the black, and if we take a look at the last log, pay close attention to the wording of this log. The following is this log. This data describes details about the Guardian's second civil war. The war raged for over 100 years. The Guardian populations fell dramatically during this time. Fertility rates dropped due to increased radiation levels and because the Guardians considered it blasphemous to use technology to address a biological issue. Eventually, one of the competing forces triumphed, but at that point, all the Guardians other than those who were exiled a century earlier were dying. So, we'll look at that again. The segment at the end that says all the Guardians other than those who had been exiled a century earlier were dying. Ramtar is mentioning here that there was another group of Guardians who escaped the final Guardian Civil War. To this day, there has not been one confirmed sighting of live Guardian colonies or ships, other than the ones we have access to via reverse engineering. Curiously though, we have seen that there are abandoned Guardian colonies out towards the Conflux, Hawkins Gap and Colonia. Although they are dead, like all of the other sites, it is interesting to try to ascertain the reasons why there are sites this far out. If we also take a look at the argument of some of the Guardian sites, some pilots have speculated that what you see on screen is in fact some kind of map. Looking at the globes of each element of the structure, it is curious that they may look like some kind of planetary arrangement, and it is known through Ramtar's logs that when Guardian settlements were constructed, meticulous planning was taken to the arrangement of this site. Do you think that this is in fact some kind of map?
Several versions of the RAXXLA story mention an alien artifact, the Omphilus Rift, described as a gateway or tunnel through which parallel universes can be accessed. These details, however, were later shown to bear a striking resemblance to the children's story, Princess Astrophel and the Spiraling Stars, and soon lost credibility. Undaunted, some RAXXLA seekers insisted that the story's author had cunningly concealed facts about the mysterious locale in his book, as hints for those with eyes to see.
Gamma Velorum is what is regarded as a Wolf-Rayet star. Stars that are basically so hyperactive that they shed off their own bodies, causing gamma ray bursts, usually ending in that star becoming a black hole. Wolf-Rayet stars that have a companion star make those companion stars spin. We know that Gamma Velorum is Guardian related as to its surrounding bubble of brain trees, a plant that is associated with the Guardian race. Wherever we find brain trees, we find Guardian ruins. Gamma Velorum is a system of 4 stars and appears to have a spiral appearance, like other Wolf-Rayets that have companion stars. The Wolf-Rayet star within the Gamma Velorum system, specifically Velorum A, is classified as WC8, with the 8 indicating a special spectral type within the Wolf-Rayet classification.